O'Connor and Company.
8:06 now as we head into our fourth hour of 4 hours of morning broadcast. We're going to get you through the morning, come hell or high water. And if you missed any of our program, please subscribe to our podcast so you too can be as informed as those neighbors of yours who have been listening since 5 a.m. You know, you don't want them to get ahead of you. It's all coming up. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie. We got Cully Stimson joining us. Oh, all right. Well, let's do this quick hit because we know Cully Stimson loves critter news, too. Apparently, there are geese in your commute this morning crossing the I-395 expressway. It's
Yeah, Jamie's been covering this pretty good.
Right. It's affecting our commute. And anytime animals affect the commute, we like to also do a quick critter news on it. Here's the thing about geese, though. They're awful, horrible creatures, especially these Canadian geese, who are here, by the way, I think, in the country illegally.
Okay, there are goslings, too, involved. It's a mommy goose and some goslings.
I don't care.
So be nice.
The baby geese grow up to be mature geese, and they ruin everything. They're awful. You know, if I see geese in the roadway ahead of me, you know what I'm doing? You know what I'm doing?
Don't say it. There's someone. I think they're trying to shepherd these geese out of the way.
Why? What
and the
a
little
waste
goslings.
of time. Just let people drive at their regular speed to get to work. And if the geese can't get out of the way, well, you know what? That's called Darwinism.
You know what? We should get to Cully because we're about to have a shopping cart fight.
Cully Stimson is the Deputy Director of the Edwin Meese III Center for Legal and Judicial Studies, Manager of the National Security Law Program, and also Senior Legal Fellow and Senior Advisor to the President of the Heritage Foundation, joins us now. Hey, Cully, thanks for joining us.
I'm so happy to be part of the Critter News. This is my favorite run-up to an intro. It's awesome.
Very rarely do we have a guest connected to Critter News, so you are one of the rare exceptions, Cully. Listen, you wrote a very important article, I think, at the Daily Signal, specifically calling out the idea of jury nullification. Tell us, because the facts are there, obviously. We know Hunter Biden is guilty of the crimes that he's accused of because he literally was prepared to plead guilty a year ago. So what's this jury really going to do here, and why?
Well, hopefully they do their job. And, the reason we wrote the piece of the Daily Signal is because this is essentially a slow plea. And in lawyer speak, that means everyone knows he did it, but the guy wants his day in court, and so everyone goes through the motions, and he gets due process, and justice happens. But this was anything but that, because this was a different type of critter news. This was the Biden critters sitting in the front row of this jury, glaring at the jury, basically saying, don't you dare. We're Bidens. We're political royalty in Delaware. You know who we are. It was so bad, Julie and Larry, that the prosecutor, and I've never seen this happen in any cases. I've done it sort of in one case that I tried a while ago, where he says to the jury at this closing argument, quote, people sitting in the gallery are not evidence. You may recognize them from the news, but respectfully, none of that matters, unquote. Can you imagine having to say that?
You talk about they are political royalty, and you make some really good points that, I knew, but I wasn't really thinking of. Delaware is the second smallest state in the country. That Joe Biden is not just the current president; he's the first president from Delaware. You talk about how they have this sort of, again, this royal feeling around them, and that Jill being present there, I kind of called it a Carmela Soprano kind of effect in the courtroom. Do you think indeed that the makeup of the jury, that who these people are, do you think that this will affect them and affect their ability to fairly judge this trial?
I sure hope not. I mean, this is a slow plea. There was no defense in this case, zero. I thought Abby Lowell, despite the histrionics, did what any decent, competent defense attorney could do and try to poke holes here and there. But he was shot 6 ways to Sunday by the prosecution because it's just a slam. I mean, you have Hunter's own laptop, which we don't want to go down that rabbit hole, where you have pictures, raunchy videos. You have his book. They used Hunter's own words against him. You had ex-girlfriends. You had forensic evidence. This is not a close case. This case wasn't proved beyond a reasonable doubt. This case was proved beyond all doubt.
Yeah.
So hopefully the jury's out an hour this morning at most, just to get a coffee break, a bathroom break, and then come back and do the right thing. But look, the message was clear. You put the whole Biden clan in the courtroom throughout the trial. Jill's, going back and forth from Europe on our dime to be there. The message is clear. Don't you do this.
Yeah. By the way, it cost a pretty penny for her to fly back and forth from Europe so she could be there for the photo ops with her husband in Europe for the Normandy acknowledgments, and yet at the same time be in the front row of the trial. $345,000 that now she needs to reimburse the cost of a first-class ticket, which the DNC will pick up for them. Even the Bidens won't pay for that. Also, I thought that they cared about carbon emissions. And yet we're fueling a jet and flying it across the Atlantic a couple of times so she could be there to watch Hunter. And Cully, I mean, I think you're right. I think that this is all meant to put on a show and say, Abby Lowell's defense, basically, the summation was, did we mention his last name is Biden? Okay, do your job here, guys. Even if they do convict him, though, my bigger concern here is that, this is like a parking ticket compared to some of the other things we've seen on this laptop. Is the special prosecutor in this case going to just sort of shrug and say, well, there you go, I did my job, got the conviction, let's move on?
Yeah, well, this is not a case where you spike the football if you get a conviction. This is like, okay, I did my job, bring me a harder case.
Yeah.
But the damage has been done because Weiss did not go after any potential connections between the current defendant and any other members of the family, including but not limited to the president, and all the influence peddling he did all over the country, all over the world. Now he's facing the tax fraud charges in California, so his legal issues aren't finished.
Right.
But the damage is done because they haven't exposed Hunter and anyone else in the family to the criminal scrutiny that they should have. So I mean, look, win or lose, he's not going to go to prison for any serious period of time. Probably shouldn't. But
now they're going to get a conviction. There won't be any sentence, and they're going to say, "See, no one's above the law." Trump got convicted, so did Hunter Biden.
Right.
But Cully, there's another part of this trial that's incredibly important, and that is that the FBI and the Justice Department, they have now gone on the record under oath in a criminal court proceeding, saying yes, the FBI's their possession of this Hunter Biden laptop. They had it before the world even knew about it. It has been validated. It has been authenticated. You used to work at the Pentagon. These 51 intelligence officials who came out and interfered in the election by claiming that this was Russian disinformation. Why do they still have their clearances, which, as you know, Cully, is worth a lot of money in this town if you're sitting on a board of directors?
It is worth a lot of money, and I don't know why they went along with friends who they trusted and signed this letter. I mean, not only was it authenticated, it was relied on in a criminal trial and probably will be one of the reasons the jury convicts if they convict. And so I know that Congress has been talking about stripping people of their security clearances after they leave office, or if they leave office, they can't do certain things if they want to keep their security clearance. We'll see whether that gets anywhere. But this was a fraud. It was a sham. And any degree to which it played in the last election is disgusting. It can't happen again.
If there's an acquittal, you suspect in this article that it's going to be the result of jury nullification because of the corrupting influence of the Bidens in the courtroom, and Delaware is a small town. But if you could give us a prediction, sir, just so, because we had told our listeners expect a conviction in New York against Donald Trump. That way people are not disillusioned. What do you expect to happen here?
They'll come back guilty before lunch today.
All right. There it is. We'll keep our eye out for it. And if that happens, you heard it here first. It's a good thing you tune in to O'Connor and Company. And it's a good thing we have friends like Cully Stimson. Thank you, Cully. Great stuff as always.
Thanks, guys.
8:15 WMAL traffic.